Hey guys, thanks for watching Weddings by CLED. Today we are going to uncover some mysteries. Now in the wedding industry, there seems to be a lot of mystery around what the heck things cost. No one ever seems to know. So today, I'm going to tell you what things cost. Okay. So you see a lot out there on budget breakdowns and how much you should be spending on all of the elements that go into a wedding, such as the venue and the catering and the florist and the photography and the music and so on and so forth. But when it really comes down to it, nobody really knows what things cost. It's not like we have price tags on everything like you do at the grocery store, you know? And a lot of times when I ask my clients, what's your budget? They really don't know. And you know what? I don't really blame them, because how can you make a budget when you really don't know how much things cost? Now, I always recommend making a budget or the one that should decide what's most important to you. And maybe flowers are not as important to you as music. So you're gonna shift that a little bit and spend a little bit more in maybe an area that's more important to you. Today, we're going to talk about the costs of some of the different elements that go into a wedding. So with that said, let's start out with the venue. The venue is the first thing, as I've said before many times, the first thing that you should book after you get engaged. Because without the venue, you can't even pick the dress. Without the venue, you can't even think about decor. Without the venue, you can't think about catering or any of those things. So, you know, whether you pick a barn or a ballroom, or it's going to lay the foundation for how formal, how informal your wedding is, and probably help with the budget and all of the other things. And it depends on where you're located. As you know, I'm based out of Virginia, but do weddings all over the place, all over the East Coast. You know, a venue may run you $1,500. That's at the very low end, and that is just for rental. All the way up to over $20,000. Yep, just for the venue, probably some more than that. You want to do your research, you want to get on the phone, and when you call venues and ask them how much their rental fee is, always ask them what's included with that. Because if it includes rental chairs and linens and china, maybe the higher price of the venue is going to be a little bit more worth it, because you won't have to rent those other items and pay for those other items. So the $1,500, I promise you, it's going to be bare bones. It might be a Sunday, it might be a Friday. Of course, your bigger cities, venues are going to cost a whole lot more than in your smaller towns. So once you have the venue booked, it's time to book everything else, okay? I always like to say, get a photographer, because there aren't always as many photographers available for certain days, especially some of the more popular days. So I always say, do your research and get the photographer you want. Now, what are you going to spend on a photographer? You want to budget for a good, professional, well-reputed photographer. You want to start your budgeting at about $3,000. Now, what you get for this is going to vary, but beware if they're under that for any type of package. Now, they might come out for 4 hours or for 3 hours for less than that, but that's not going to cover what you need. So be careful of that too, because you might see things out there like, oh, you know, we start at, you know, $500 or we start at $750, but what do you really get for that? An engagement shoot? So you want to do your homework there, but you also want to make sure you're getting a professional. So be wary if it's too cheap, but photographers can go all the way up to, for non-celebrity photographers, $10,000, $15,000 for full packages for all day with a second shooter. Some of them you may get an album, some of them you may just get rights to the photographs to use on social media. But then when you're talking about the celebrities, and this is in every category, there's the celebrities, there's the celebrity videographers, the celebrity photographers. They travel all over the world, and some of them you're looking at upwards of $50,000 to $100,000. Yep, you are. So you better up that budget if you want to have a celebrity shooting your wedding. And you can expect pretty much the same pay scale for your videographers and your wedding cinematographers. So another category is catering. Now, a lot of schools of thought say that this is roughly 50% of your wedding budget, and I tend to agree with that. Catering encompasses food and bar. So I don't have to tell you, the more guests you have, the more expensive that's gonna be. So what you wanna think about is the per person price. When you're looking at catering, you wanna get the per person price from caterers that you're shopping, and you always wanna ask, does that per person price include taxes? Does it include service charges? Because that per person price of, say, $50 a person can really be $85 a person with all of the other charges that are included. So when you do your shopping for caterers, make sure you ask what is included in the per person price. They're not just gonna give you one big package price for a wedding, because that's just not how they work. It's always per person. And for the average caterer, just the average wedding in our neck of the woods, I would say plan to spend at least $50 per person on food and alcohol. Now there's lots of ways to do that. A lot of times the caterer holds the license and they will serve the bar and provide bartenders and all of the above. That's gonna cost you a little bit more. In some cases, some caterers will let you get the license and you can go out and get your own alcohol, which will save you money, but you will take on the liability, and you will still have to pay for bartenders and for runners and for bar setups and the mixers and the olives and the lemons and everything that goes into putting a bar together. So it doesn't just happen like that. There's a lot involved with that. But I would say in this neck of the woods, $50 is the average per person for catering. But again, for a full sit-down dinner with a little bit higher end dining options, you're gonna be over $100 per person easily. So another area that you want to think about is music. Now there's lots of variety in the world of music. You can mix it up and you can have live music for the ceremony and then a DJ later on. You can have a DJ for the cocktail hour and then have a band come on. It just all depends on what your preferences are. Now, what does it all cost? So for your string quartet or your jazz trio or what have you, a small acoustic type band that plays maybe just for the ceremony, you may add on for the cocktail hour. But just for the ceremony, you're typically looking here in this area, $200 to $250 per player just for the ceremony. And then they'll add on some more if they stay through the cocktail hour. But you know, bear in mind that they're gonna have to practice music. They might have to learn some songs for you. So it's not just the time that they're here. There also may be travel fees involved, depending on where they're coming from. You might have to feed them. So that's another thing that you have to work into your budget. When you're talking about DJs, again, in our neck of the woods, and we're in Virginia, we're in Southwest Virginia actually, maybe very different in Northern Virginia, but you're looking at DJs in the neighborhood, an average of $750 to $1,000 on the average. There's always gonna be add-ons. Now in the bigger cities, DJs can go up to $2,500, $3,000 for an average unless it's more of a celebrity DJ. Same with bands. The average band in this area, you're looking at $3,000, $4,000. There are smaller bands that will play for less in the $2,000 range for a wedding. And again, with bands all the way up to, I mean, you could spend $50,000 on a wedding band. I always recommend that brides pay for the hair and makeup of their bridesmaids because you want everyone to look beautiful, but you don't want to put another cost on them. So I would say in this area, the average cost of makeup is anywhere from $75 to $125 a face. A lot of that depends if there are lashes included or not. Sometimes it's a little bit more for the bride. In bigger cities, I just researched this in Miami, and they were looking at $150 to $300 a face in Miami. Hair design, again, this can range anywhere from $80 a head up to $150 a head on the average. Also, I want you to remember that you have to budget for your tips in there. You should always tip your service folks, and really sometimes I recommend tipping every single vendor. So when it comes to wedding gowns and tuxedos, or getting your suit made, which is another video that you might want to check out, which I think is a great way to go. You could spend very little, or you could really be getting into some big bucks. But it all lends itself to what you're getting for your money. So a bridal gown, there are so many great consignment shops out there. There's a lot of stores online where you can spend a couple of $100s and get something beautiful that fits you. Or you could go to the big designer houses and you could spend well over $20,000 on a bridal gown. So that's an area where you decide where your budget is and what your priority is, and then you decide how much you want to spend. Now, this is the same for flowers and decor, which you all know is very close to my heart because we do our own flowers and decor in our business along with planning. But we work with brides who have budgets that are $1,500. We work with brides who have budgets that are $50,000. And because it's our passion, we love doing the 1500s as much as we love doing the 50,000s. And that should be important when you're picking vendors. They should be just as willing and happy to work with you if they agree to do it at whatever your budget is. But you're not gonna get the same for those two amounts of money. And I'll tell you, in the world of flowers, there have been a lot of increases. And that actually goes the gamut with catering and everything on food and flowers. So you come to me with a bouquet and it's got all these high-end flowers, you are probably looking at between $450 and $750. Now, if you go a little bit more average and you're doing something with just roses and maybe a lot of greenery, you're probably looking at a bridal bouquet of between $195 and $300, depending on the size and the style of flowers and the time of year and everything you ask for. So if you're not doing it yourself and you're hiring someone to come in and just do flowers and greenery, you're probably looking at a minimum of $35 a table, and that is pretty bare bones. If you're doing a floral centerpiece that's got a lot of flowers in it, but that's low, you're probably looking at anywhere from $90 to $150 on the average. And if you're looking at those tall, beautiful centerpieces that you see, you're looking at least $225 and up. Whatever they're elevated on, like a tall glass vase or a metal stand or what have you, a candelabra, that's also gonna factor into the cost. So a really full, beautiful, we call them tall and fluffies at CLED, arrangement like that is going to run you at least $350 for the really full ones and up. And then I don't even want to talk about the really big arrangements that you see that sometimes we see in the center of the room or on buffet tables. Those can range from $500 to $1,000. Now, if that sounds like a lot to you, go to ftd.com and see what you get for $100 to deliver an arrangement to someone's home. You definitely want to look at those things and decide what's important to me. How much do I really want to spend? Okay, so this next one I am pretty familiar with, but it is planners. And if you watch some of my other videos, you might want to check this one out on the different types of planner that you can hire for your wedding, but they are basically full service planner, partial planner, and month of planner, because you know I don't believe in day of planners. So if someone just stepping on site and never having seen you before in their life, yeah, it's cheap, but you will be sorry. So for full service planners, for a good planner, you are probably looking at anywhere from, I would say, $3,500 for the more inexperienced, newer planner, all the way up to $10,000 on the average for a full service planner. Now keep in mind, this person is probably gonna work with you for a whole year. They're gonna do all your legwork. They're gonna be your liaison with all your vendors. They're gonna help with logistics, help with a lot of things up until the day of with their team. Low end, $3,500, and then I'd say average, $5,000 to $10,000, but again, you got your celebrities out there who are, some of them will not come out for less than $25,000. So bear that in mind. Your partial planners, you're looking probably anywhere between $2,500 and $7,500. And this is someone that steps in the middle of your planning and takes over all the way up to the wedding day. And then your month of wedding coordinators, I would say that you're looking at anywhere from $1,500 up to $5,000, again, depending on where you are geographically, how big your wedding is, how big their team needs to be. Now, the other category I want to talk about is all the extras. Not everybody gets these, but we definitely need to talk about them. So wedding cakes. Not everybody has wedding cakes. Some people do dessert in different forms. Some people do cupcakes, some do donuts now. But as far as wedding cakes go, it depends on how elaborate it is. They usually price it out per person, per slice. So you're looking at anywhere from $3 at the lower end all the way up to $20 per slice. This all depends on how the wedding cake is going to be decorated, how the wedding cake is going to taste, what kind of flavors it has, and how elaborate it is going to be. And as far as cupcakes, again, in your smaller towns, your more average, you're probably looking at about $2.50 or so a cupcake, all the way up to $10 or so per cupcake or more in some of your bigger cities. Officiants. Not everybody comes with an officiant. You can get officiants for hire, and you're typically looking at anywhere from $350 to $750 for an officiant to come out, work on your wedding ceremony with you, and come and seal the deal on the big day. Favors. Oh gosh, there's all kinds of, I could go on and on and on this topic because there are so many things involved with a wedding, and these are more or less the extras. So favors, favor boxes, welcome boxes that I love doing, and I think they're a whole lot better than a favor that people take home from the wedding because there's actually things in them that you can use. I usually tell people to budget about $25 to $35 per welcome box. You can get a couple of airplane bottles in there for when they come in and they want a cocktail. You can get 2 bottles of water. You can get the box, the stuffing, and any other little trinkets or little favors that you may want your guests to have so that they enjoy themselves while they're here for the wedding. Okay guys, so I am going to wrap up this video with a little bit of a disclaimer because I can see it now. I'm gonna have some of the wedding vendors coming at me going, you are way off the mark, or I do it for a whole lot less, or it's gonna be a whole lot more. And you know what? That's why it's a mystery, because wedding costs are all over the map. And I tried to give you a little bit of a gauge of what you can expect. Now, there's always wiggle room, there's always negotiation, everything can be negotiated, but this is just a framework to make you a little bit more comfortable going into your wedding planning process. Now, guys, if I miss something, or you have a topic that you want to hear more about under the budget umbrella, please leave that in the comments. And guys, I can't thank you enough for watching Weddings by CLED. This has been such a fun journey for me, and I have enjoyed all of the feedback and all of the comments that I've been receiving. And I am so grateful for everyone who has subscribed. And I'm gonna ask you to please subscribe if you haven't done so already. It will bring you fresh, new content every single week, and it'll help me realize my dreams.